Who has stopped the Meiteis from gaining access? There's no law forbidding Meiteis from going into the hills. Reformation of quote unquote reclaiming the hills. You need a toolbox which you can use to recalibrate things. Political opposition has not done anything to visualize the Manipur situation. I don't see them talking about Manipur at all. There's a sense that we don't want to get into this mess. Every day we are getting reports of violence. Where is the law and order situation? Where is the administrative competence? This NRC is a document for the future. It's a model document for the future. That this is going to happen in other states now.
Somehow, all the narrative of foreigners is limited to Kukis only.
And particularly erecting of walls and on the terms of the Meiteis.
Head hunting as a practice, I think, was gone away from Manipur. But again, we see head hunting of victims happening. Manipur was not exactly a safe place for Kuki Christians.
Manipur has been a Meitei kingdom when it was a monarchy. Nativism isn't just a remit of the right. It is something that straddles the entire political spectrum. So left, right, center doesn't matter. Balancing government is an important political asset for BJP. Alienating the Meiteis could have huge political ramifications and costs on the BJP high command. If Delhi wants to stop the violence and protect the Kukis, it can do so in less than 2 days.
Welcome, Angshuman Chaudhary. Angshuman Chaudhary is an associate fellow at the Center of Policy Research. He is also a member of Indo-Pacific Circle. So, welcome to Angshuman for coming to our podcast. This is a new format that we are using. Basically, we do a documentary style thing. And generally, we try to upset the apple cart as far as possible, but currently we don't have the resources to engage in this sort of activities. So thank you, Angshuman Da, for joining us from Delhi. So let's start. Let's start this interview. The first and foremost, my question to you is just being a person who is from Assam and also understands the political sociology of people from Northeast, I would like you to make the viewers understand in short what is actually happening in Assam and what is the problematic aspects that is happening in Northeast, and the relation as to why even after this conflict, Kuki activists and Kuki nationalist groups are meeting the Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sharma to broker peace between Manipur and Delhi.
Did you mean what is happening in Manipur, right?
Yeah, Manipur, and the reason why Assam is still central to determination of Manipur's relation with Delhi.
Yeah. Thank you, firstly, Abid, for inviting me. It's lovely that you are hosting this discussion and this sort of discussions on relevant and important matters. From being someone from Assam, it's very troubling to see what's happening right next door in Manipur. It's very difficult also to explain what's going on in very short. But in a sense, this is an outburst of multiple things. One of them is our long held grievances within the Kuki community against Meitei political, social, and cultural domination in Manipur. And this is something that probably had been penting up within Kuki civil society and within the Kuki political milieu for a long time. But because of certain immediate triggers in the recent past, we are seeing this sudden outburst of violence. And some of the most immediate trigger was actually the Manipur High Court order from April, which gave scheduled tribe status to the Meiteis, which angered the Kuki community. So the Meiteis form a majority, a small majority, but a majority in Manipur, and the Meiteis mostly live in the valley, the Imphal Valley and the surrounding areas. And the Kukis, along with other tribal groups like the Nagas and other smaller sub-ethnic groups, live in the hills surrounding surrounding Imphal. So there has always been this divide between the valley and the hills, this sort of ethno-political divide between the hills and the valley. and a lot of it has to do with sociology, but also economics, right? So there has been a perception within the Kuki community that whatever development Manipur has seen over the last 2-3 decades, that they are not the ones who got the benefit of those development. It's the Meiteis in the valley who form the powerful political class or the political elite of Manipur. It's the valley that has secured all the gains of in a way the neoliberal economic development or the post-liberalization economic development that has reached Manipur. It has reached Manipur very late, but it has reached Manipur over the last 10-15 years, I would say. So there is this perception of discrimination, economic discrimination, that has exacerbated also the perceptions of political and cultural discrimination. And all of this also comes down to the fact that the Kukis feel that they are not represented enough in the bureaucracy, in the state bureaucracy, in the police force, in the general administrative setup of Manipur. And as I said, none of this is new. In fact, it goes back. You could trace it back to the fact that Manipur has always been under the control, the sovereign control of a Meitei monarchy, historically speaking, the Meitei kingdom. Right. So the Kukis, in a way, the Kuki tribes have always felt, in a way, blindsided. So far, what we had seen in Manipur, the ethnic clashes that we had seen in Manipur were actually of a different nature. They were mostly between the tribal groups, the Kukis and the Nagas. In the early 1990s, in fact, throughout most of the 1990s, we saw very intense clashes between the Kukis and the Nagas over territorial control and other political issues, ethno-political issues. But in a long time, probably for the first time, we are seeing such violent clashes between the Kukis and the Meiteis, and in a way between the Kukis and the Manipuri state, the modern post-colonial Manipuri state. It's the first time we're seeing that kind of head-on clash between these two groups. And of course, there's a perception, when I say Manipuri state, there's a perception that the current Manipuri state, the Manipur state government, is a Meitei dominated government. That the Biren Singh government is disproportionately biased in favor of the Meiteis, and it's not a fair game for the Kukis. That's the very strong perception. So just the last word on this, which is that the final demand, the main demand that we are seeing emerging from the Kuki community today is the demand for a separate administration under Schedule 6. So Manipur, interestingly, unlike many other northeastern states, doesn't come under the Schedule 6 provision. It has a hill administration council, but the problem is that the Biren Singh government has sidelined that mechanism. That hill council hasn't convened in a long time. So the hill tribes feel that their political autonomy is being eroded, right? And this was most, I think I should definitely mention this. This was most visible when they started complaining about the Biren Singh government's policy of expanding reserve forests and protected forests in Manipur, and in the process uprooting and forcibly evicting many Kukis who have been living in those areas newly demarcated as reserve forests. There were protests which happened over this 2 months ago, and the main complaint from the Kuki community was not that reserve forest should not be extended, the forest should not be protected, or that environment should not be protected, but it was that the Biren Singh government did not consult the Kuki civil society or the people living in those areas before just going out and bulldozing their houses and creating this reserve forest. So there's a problem of a lack of consultation between all sections of society, which makes the Kuki feel like their political autonomy is being taken lightly. So now they are demanding a separate administration, like under the Schedule 6, an autonomous administration. In response, what the Meitei civil society is saying that no, this is not going to happen because this is a challenge to the territorial integrity of Manipur. So they are more concerned about protecting the territorial integrity, while the Kukis want justice and a separate administration. So this is the basic, dynamics of the clash, the conflict.
One of the propaganda that has been used by the Meitei people is that 90% of Manipur is hills and it is accessible only to the Kuki and the Naga people, while we have access to only 10% of the land. And this is one of the many reasons why we need such kind of initiatives like Arambai Tengol, so that we can flush out the quote-unquote illegal cookies out into Burma. That is
Yeah.
a huge point, or maybe we can say a political narrative that has been espoused from time to time in the last 45 days or so. So
Yeah,
how do you see it? Is there any truth to this kind of insinuations?
yeah. Look, who has stopped the Meiteis from gaining access? I mean, moving into, I mean, traveling to the hills or going to the hills. No one has stopped them, right? There is no law forbidding Meiteis from going into the hills. Uh, the only law is that they cannot buy land in the tribal inhabited hills, right? And that is a safeguard that is given to the tribal communities for the protection of the land and livelihood, right? Like many other communities have constitutional safeguards in India, they too have the safeguards, right? And that's
Hmm.
understandable in many ways, I would say. But what the Meiteis feel is that they are a majority, but they are in a way they cannot buy land in the hills. They have to be confined. Their assets have to be confined to the 10% of the entire territorial land. So I think they feel that they are being turned for all practical purposes into a disadvantageous minority in Manipur. But this is, I would say, this does not have any basis in reality, because if you see, as I said, the politics, the society, economics, and culture, if you see all these four parameters in Manipur, there is undoubtedly a strong Meitei dominance in these four parameters because of deep historical reasons, right? Much like the upper caste, upper class Hindu Assamese in Assam have dominance in the state bureaucracy, in the state government. Similarly, the Meiteis have that kind of dominance. It's comparable in that sense. Um, so I think that's the sense. Now the point is that in order to execute this, in order to implement this, sort of reformation. I'm calling it
Hmm.
reformation because from the Meitei point of view, reformation of quote unquote reclaiming the hills for the Meiteis. You have to have a narrative. You cannot implement a program of reformation, radical reformation, or radical reclamation without what is known as a political or a cultural toolbox, to use a sociological term, right? You need a
Yeah.
toolbox which you can use to recalibrate things.
Like
Yeah,
majority of the Meitei owned media outlets, they are winning the perception war that they have created against the Kuki and the Naga also in some way.
hmm.
And overall, like let's see from a solidarity process, or the solidarity world, or we are seeing that among mainland activists from
Hmm.
left or Hindu oriented or Muslim
Hmm.
oriented, we are not seeing that much of support to the Kuki cause, or not acceptance of the violence unleashed against Kuki as genocidal, and this is something we are lacking. Even in social media spaces we are not discussing that in this way. So how do you see this? What impact would it have in creation of solidarity for the Kuki people going forward?
Yeah.
And in the global context, the dehumanization of cookies, how does it create new kind of equations with India, Burma, and largely, we also have the Burma Act 2021, which has gotten updated into Burma Act 2023 by the US administration. And how does it impact the region as a whole, if we can
Yeah.
understand, like from a India perspective, from a meta narrative perspective, as well as from a global perspective?
Yeah. So I think the first problem is that Manipur is still unfortunately, quote unquote, far flung remote corner. I'm using those terms under quote because the point is that the media focus on Manipur is very lax, and more than the media, because of that, the general understanding of what's going on in Manipur amongst mainland activists is very low. Even amongst the more well-informed ones, they do not
Mm,
understand the nuances of the dynamics, right? In fact, they see all groups probably as tribal groups,
mm,
ethnic indigenous tribal groups, whatever, somewhere in the remote hills of the northeast. This is the general perception. So in my experience, most people from the mainland that I've spoken to, they simply don't understand. Secondly, and to be clear, I wouldn't really blame them. They, it's because of other systemic issues and media coverage is that lacks media coverage. I would blame those things rather than anything else. Second thing is that Yeah, so one problem which has happened is that the money this violence, it's important to talk about this, the violence has happened in the context of intense political instability in Myanmar after the coup, after the February 2021 coup, and that should be factored in somehow. Because there has been influx of asylum seekers, Kuki Chin asylum seekers from Myanmar into both Mizoram and Manipur, right? In Mizoram, the Mizos have welcomed their Chin brothers and sisters wholeheartedly, because they
Mm,
belong to the Chin Mizo Kuki Zo
mm,
fold, right?
mm,
But in Manipur, what we have seen is that the Biren Singh government has used this asylum crisis to, in
mm.
fact, shore up Meitei nationalism, and in fact, very unfortunately and worryingly, almost label the entire Kuki population as outsiders, Burmese invaders, and whatnot. At least that is the
Yeah,
sort of narrative that has spread in popular media.
yeah, yeah.
And this is very troubling because most of these cookies, majority of the cookies have been in Manipur since centuries. They don't know any other home but Manipur, or the land
Exactly.
that is today Manipur. So that is quite troubling. So I would say, and the other thing, and then the third thing I would say is that this internet shutdown, this internet blackout. I understand there are very I would say political, I would say administrative, executive reasons behind doing it to stop misinformation and rumors from spreading. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I would better shut off the internet than rumors, harmful rumors spreading around and leading to loss of lives. But what this shutdown has done is that the exact reality, or the reality of what's going on the ground. For example, yesterday there was an attack on a cookie village
Hmm.
that only very few people knew about.
Yeah,
Um,
after
that
a fight with the Gorkha rifles, Meitei,
exactly, exactly.
uh,
So the point is that these kind of truths, this kind of news from the ground are not coming out. So
but
people are not able to form opinions.
Dongshuman, like even this is also a hypocritical stand of the Manipuri government. Like they have shut down internet everywhere except in the main hotspot area, Sisipur. Okay, so in Sisipur we still see internet being used to spread propaganda, and violence has been projected against
Yes.
cookies, and all the good activities, I can say quote unquote good activities of cookie woman saving Meitei woman has gone to the drain. Like
Mm,
I recently read a Japan Times article where Mira Paivis have not only kind of acted as an auxiliary ground support for the Meitei militants in
mm,
burning down that ambulance, but
mm,
also they want Meitei men to go and rape and kill
mm,
Kuki women. This is like it's a different kind of war zone that we are witnessing in our own background,
yes.
but unfortunately, somehow we are not able to justify it as maybe if it was happening in Libya or Iraq or maybe somewhere
Mm,
else. Like this is a
mm,
very
mm.
tragic outcome of this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. This selective shutdown is very harmful. Either shut down the whole internet everywhere, so that there is at least sort of symmetry and parity, or do not shut down the internet at all. This selective shutdown, it makes us feel that there is an ulterior motive behind this shutdown, and not just a simple benign administrative motive. And that's exactly why I think it is important to discuss. I've seen that many discussions that are happening on television, even by well-meaning people, are missing, are dodging the fact that this is a government which is perceived is strongly perceived to be biased in favor of the majority community, and is doing everything in favor of that particular community, in favor of the Meiteis, I would say. So that is something that most discussions are actually, I don't know, for some reason just avoiding. I would say it's one of the most important parts of this aspects of this story.
But Angshuman, like if we look at the history of Manipur, then Manipur has always been an ethnic state. Like we have Pangal Muslim massacre in 1993, and before that also, Manipur was not exactly a safe place for Kuki Christians and Nagas. There has been historical bias against them. Like I saw, I think 3 4 pictures also where head hunting of cookie victims, is happening. Headhunting as a practice, I think, was gone away from Manipur, but again we see headhunting of victims happening. So this is
No, definitely.
maybe,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, the thing is that one narrative you will see emerging from Meitei intellectuals and academia is that all of this hostility is new. We should stop it. This is all artificial, constructed. Some particular certain elite factions within these two communities are generating this kind of hostility. It's never been there, and which belies, as I said, the history. I mean, there has been systematic, and as I said earlier, Manipur has been a Meitei kingdom when it was a monarchy, right? So the point is that historically, that kind of hegemony, that kind of social hegemony, has trickled down and manifested in different forms. None of this is new. What we are seeing today is only you could say, an aggravated manifestation of long historical, complex historical processes.
Yeah, like for example, the usage of Lysipria, the environment kid, who is
Hmm.
justifying
Hmm.
Nazism of Arambai Tengol. Then
Hmm.
Mera Pabis have
Hmm.
hit the ground, and they are creating propaganda against cookie SOs, who
Hmm.
again have been created by the government only.
Hmm.
And there is also transgender groups who have kind of trying to justify, not justify, this to apologia for the Meitei violence that has been unleashed. So
Hmm.
in a way, is it not unsafe to say that when we are talking about ethnic democracy for a long time, and we are seeing a creation of ethnic democracy within the meta narrative of Hindustan,
Hmm.
in India, in Manipur, and it's happening before creation of such kind of ethnic state in Assam, which
Hmm.
historically has been the most ethnically charged hot spot in India.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, these are, you would say, in many ways, micro versions of of the larger ideological project that's going on across, pan India project that's going on, which began in the north. I would say the cow belt, the Hindi belt, and also in many ways Maharashtra. Let's not forget that. So I would say these are mushrooming of smaller versions of the larger cultural nationalist project of homogenizing this country in a way, and ethnicizing what is supposed to be a pluralistic, heterogeneous, and secular democracy, democratic fabric. So we saw it happening in Assam, and there is, this must be talked about. How the Hindutva political project has tried to co-opt in many ways local ethnic sentiments, local nativist sentiments, local indigenous politics. We saw that happening in Assam, right? We saw that happening in Assam, and now we are seeing in many ways the same thing happening in Manipur. Um, of course, you cannot just see this through a religious sort of lens.
Hmm.
There are other layers also, but at the
Hmm.
same time, unlike what many intellectuals and scholars argue, I wouldn't dismiss the communal angle here entirely. All layers must be counted for. This is a complex sort of situation, but and hence all layers must be counted for in terms of understanding what are the drivers of this conflict. Then there is, of course, the Sanamahi revivalist movement, right? So
Hmm.
and its own interactions with the Hindutva political project. So
Hmm.
those things need to be talked about when we are trying to sort of scratch the surface of what's happening.
Like, if we do a sociological profiling, a historical sociological profile of the nationalist movements in Assam as well as in Manipur, then somehow historically we're seeing that these are offshoots of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which
Hmm.
did not have that much success in Bengal, West Bengal, and Bangladesh, but it is having a different kind of success in Assam and
Hmm.
Manipur. In Assam, I remember there was one MLA who said that how dare Mia enter the temples of Shankaracharya, and
Hmm.
entering the temple of Shankaracharya as a cow eater itself is a heinous crime.
Yeah.
So we are seeing that kind of a thing in Manipur as well, and it is very similar.
Yeah. What is also in Assam's case, as I said, there's a attempt to co-opt the neo Vaishnavite movement of Hankodev
Hmm.
into the Hindutva fold, right? Where Namkhors are being reimagined as sort of staunchly Hindu places, right? Whereas the neo Vaishnavite movement of Hankodev was quite sort of social, communally agnostic. It was quite very very secular in that sense and very inclusive in that sense. So there's a way to reimagine that. In Manipur, what is interesting is that there is a friction. There's a very strong friction between the Sanamahi revivalist movement and also the Hindutva political project. That we see a pushback from the Sanamahi revivalism against in the Hindutva political project's attempt to co-opt Sanamahism in a way. But then again, you see groups like Meitei Lipun, which which very comfortably fuse these two in a way, unlike Aram by Tangol, which is more of a sort of Sanamai revivalist group. So
Hmm.
I would say we've got to. This is a phase of violent churning, and it's going to lead to something. Is what I feel. Something will become clearer once the dust settles. So, got to wait for a while. I would say.
So, is it safe to say that we are in Manipur? We are in a civilizational warfare, and kind of even the communist Meitei and Manipuris, they are also kind of supporting. They're not exactly mane, supporting cookies, or they are protecting cookies. They are also हिंदीতে বলে না যে গঙ্গা में हाथ बह देना. So
Mhm.
they are
Right.
also doing that kind of activity. Like we
Yeah.
are in a মানে how did we reach such a stage
Hmm.
where even the Bampanthi Meiteis are supporting Hindutvadi Meiteis or Brahmanical Meiteis? This is a very weird kind of a thing. Like how this change?
Yeah.
How is it
I,
happening so fast?
Yeah, I mean, I don't find it very weird because I've seen the same thing happen in Assam in many ways. This is what you can call the ethnocentric left, which very much buys into, or rather tries to claim the politics of indigeneity, the ethnic politics of indigeneity and nativism, the ethno nationalist politics of indigeneity and nativism. So you have to understand that ethno nationalism or nativism isn't just a remit of the right wing. It is something that straddles the entire political spectrum. So left, right, center doesn't matter. All of them come into the ethnocentric vote. Look, did you see any left politician from Assam seriously or committedly oppose the NRC? No, they did
No.
not.
Mm.
Everyone, even the some of the most radical left, so-called progressive people from Assam, intellectuals from Assam, they tried to justify NRC using jargon, using sort of academic complexities and stuff like that, right?
Mm.
So, but in some ways, saying that look, NRC is going to resolve a vexed issue of immigration, illegal immigration, as if this issue was like an apple hanging on a tree and they did not create it. So my point is that they are in some they form part of that larger sort of scholarly academic and both as it's an organic intellectual and and an intellectual a theoretical intellectual in a way.
Yeah.
So I would say this is what we are seeing at play is an ethnocentric progressive politics. So don't be surprised when you see Bamponthis in Manipur also doing Bheti Ganga mein Hath Dhona.
No, but in Assam, we understand their topsy turvy changing from time to time. There's a historic timeline to understand why certain progressive people are taking that line. But somehow in Manipur, there seems to be very less knowledge about this transformation. Mm. So, do you think NRC like initiative can happen in Mizoram as well as Manipur? Because even if we look at Manipur, the influx of refugees in Manipur, there are Manipuris also, not Manipuris, Meiteis from outside who have come into Manipur also. Like they are fleeing Burma as well, but somehow all the narrative of foreigners is limited to Kukis only. Like, what do you think is the political gamesmanship that is
Yeah.
activated by Biren Singh?
Yeah, I think this NRC narrative has been going on since a while now, and I think Justice Ranjan way before this, he said something inadvertently. He spoke the truth, but he said, this NRC is a document for the future. It's a model document for the future, and many of us had been saying that before only. He said it in a different manner, of course, in a different tone or a different context. But yes, whatever happened in Assam, many of us, as I said, many of us were talking about this earlier, like 2 3 years before when it
Mm.
was going on. That this is going to happen in other states now. It's become like almost a template for I would say systematic segregation and otherization of the quote unquote the others. The majority things are the others. The social elite things are the others. So Manipur is only the second example. Mizoram, I don't think NRC is going to happen anytime soon because although there are serious frictions on the ground regarding the host refugee frictions in Mizoram, but it's not even remotely close to what's happening in Manipur. We also saw that sometime back before all of this violence began, there was a facial recognition software that was mobile facial recognition bans that were put in place by the Manipur.
FRT
Yes,
by dear.
correct. So it's almost like a Xinjiang style kind of facial
Uh,
recognition software to identify not just like outsiders from quote unquote illegal immigrants from Burma, but also ILP violators. In fact,
yeah.
primarily ILP violators. So we see this over the last 2 3 years, the process which has I would say accelerated after Biren Singh came to power for the second time last year, which is that this fencing, erecting of walls around Manipur and particularly erecting of walls and on the terms of the Meiteis to make Manipur sort of a non-pluralistic, exclusive kind of political and territorial space. So all of this fits into that.
Anyways, last two questions that I have for you is: do you think, in a way, because the Mizoram government, does not support India's foreign policy in Burma in that way, and they support the revolutionary activities in Burma, do you think apathy, larger apathy towards the cookies, is getting reflected in a small space of Imphal Valley? It is kind of, just because Mizoram government doesn't support Modi's foreign policy, they are teaching cookies a lesson, because India can employ their best NSG, their military people, marines, to safeguard cookies who are also taxpayers of India. And they are also voters of the BJP party. There are BJP MLAs and BJP MPs from the cookies who have been affected, and some have been shot, and one or two have died also. But BJP is still completely shut. It's like Biren Singh as a demigod is bigger than New Delhi and the BJP party.
Yeah. That's an interesting theory, I would say. What you were saying in terms of the effect of the Mizoram. Look, so the Mizoram Delhi equation has its own life in a way. There's a sort of very interesting federal dynamic of uh, buying in and buying out in that sense. Mizoram government gives something, take and then takes away something in return. Delhi does the same. So you will also see, on one hand, you will see Zoram Thanga writing an open letter to Modi, putting his feet down and refusing to listen to Modi as far as Chin refugees in Mizoram are concerned. On the other hand, you will also see Zoram Thanga go out and tweet about how great Modi is and Modi's foreign policies. So you see, there's a balance. There's a dance of federalism in that. Uh, I'm not so. Given that, I'm not sure that what you just said plays a big role in terms of quote unquote teaching the cookies a lesson, because I would say Delhi has its own way of uh, reining in the Zoramthanga government and putting some limits on what the Zoramthanga government can do as far as taking in refugees or integrating Chin refugees within Mizoram is concerned. You also have to remember that look, the MNF is an important ally of the BJP. I don't think the BJP would want to lose the MNF so easily in Mizoram. And elections are coming up in Mizoram also, definitely. But I would say, yeah, what you said, what is happening right now, it has had an effect on the Zoramthanga government. The Zoramthanga government has very strongly come out in support of the Kukis in Manipur, and they have accepted so many Kuki displaced Kukis from Manipur into Mizoram. So that has definitely happened, and we have to see now how Delhi reacts to that in that sense. But yes, as you said, if Delhi wants to stop the violence and protect the cookies, it can do so in less than 2 days. It
Hmm.
can end everything and do so in less than one. It can send special forces. It can use air support, whatever. It can do whatever it wants. It has a huge quantum of force and riot control measures at its disposal, many of which it does not seem to be using. Somewhere down the chain of command, that information is not, the directives are not trickling down. But I would also say this also has a lot to do with New Delhi's or BJP's reluctance to alienate the Meitei constituencies, which are a
Hmm.
powerful constituency. Remember that the Meitei constituency also is not just about Meiteis in Manipur. The Meiteis generally are a powerful community in the northeast. There are many Meiteis in the central security forces, in the
Hmm.
state intelligence apparatus
Hmm.
also. So, and ultimately, the Biren Singh government is an important political asset for BJP. They don't want to
Hmm.
lose that just like that. Alienating the Meiteis could have huge political ramification and costs on the BJP high command. So that factor also we should not forget.
Do you think somehow the opposition to BJP has lost the plot by not advocating for the cookie? Because one thing is crystal clear from a bottom line perspective that the Biren Singh wants to convert Manipur into a Gaja park. Okay, that one thing is clearly understood that they are looking to somehow engage in use that Mandela Road that is right now going to be operational from Manipur to engage in all these illegal drug activities, and the opposition has not been able to grasp the seriousness and of this thing and have not really laid into Modi even in parliament as they should.
Well, I'm glad you talked about this. Do you see any opposition figure talking about Manipur, national opposition figure talking about, seriously talking about Manipur anywhere? I don't see it.
Nah,
Forget about nationally. Yeah.
only
Even,
Ambedkarite people are doing.
yeah, absolutely. But talk about any senior Congress figure. Talk
Mm,
about any senior. I mean, even TMC and Aam Aadmi Party or any national party, opposition national
mm,
party. I don't see them talking about Manipur at all. My feeling is that they want to. There's a sense that we don't want to get into this mess. This is a ethnic conflict. They will resolve it themselves. We if we take one, so they think there is a sort of symmetry in this clash. So we don't want to muddy ourselves in by dipping our hands into that. So my feeling is there is that sense. But even if once again I'm taking Assam as a reference point, you would not have seen any senior Congress figure also when we saw sort of ethno political attacks against minorities in Assam. I didn't see any serious senior Congress figure talk about that or pin down the Modi government or the BJP government on that. So I think there's a general political reluctance to do that. Um, in Manipur, however, there are some senior Congress figures who have talked about it, who have also gone as far as blaming, taking the name of Arambai Tengol, Meitei people, and talking about how these guys are creating violence, anarchy. But that is not reaching national media. My argument here is that as far as the national media is concerned, the political opposition has not done anything to visibilize the Manipur situation, and forget about the ethnic element of it. Let's just talk about the law and order administrative failure of the entire
mm,
state apparatus, the central government and the state government. Even after the visit of the home minister, even after forming this peace committee, which is a non-starter from the very start, we are seeing intermittent outbursts of intense violence. Every day we are getting reports of violence. Where is the law and order situation? Where is the administrative competence that we deserve, right? So all of these things, I don't see the opposition talking about. So yeah, I mean, if you say it's a failure, it's a failure. Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you for this interview, even though I can ask you a lot of questions that should be asked, but we might land in trouble because of asking those questions. So I haven't asked you those questions, but we'll keep this thing possible to float as long as possible, because what I also find is that also among the people, like the general populace also does not have the capacity to understand anything outside the Hindu Muslim or the Hindu Christian narrative. This is also
Yes.
a huge problem
Yes.
that like pre-colonial issues of race and caste, it has completely been subsided. Anyways,
In fact,
uh, thank you for
just
being
one
with us.
that is sorry, just one last thing. I
Ah,
mean that is one of the very serious and under discussed adverse consequences of communalization, the wave of communalization that we are seeing. That the academia, the general intelligentsia, and the popular discourse is flushed in binaries now. That
mm,
people refuse to understand things in the many complex, the multifarious complexities that they deserve to be understood. So yeah, I completely agree.